Now hopefully you had a good time with that 3D box and have applied all of the different sides that you need for the box. Now unfortunately it'd be really nice if we could easily just duplicate this in the same scene and get exactly what we want, but it doesn't work that way. So in order to have more boxes we have to actually duplicate the layer that we have, and I did that with Control J. So just duplicated that 3D layer. Now I can move that particular box around in three-dimensional space. I can maybe even scale that particular object, and I'm also going to move it down. So I'm going to translate it, or pan it as they call it in Photoshop. So it's down here, and I might put that object on top. Let me see. Right now it's just pan. So I'm going to actually, whoops, not camera, but 3D object slide tool. Looks as though we can't make it go before, ahead of, or behind the existing object that's there. It's just one of those strange things when using using different layers in Photoshop. It doesn't allow you to manipulate them in three-dimensional space. Since this layer is on top, it'll always be on top. Anyway, what I want to go through here is actually looking at some of the other lighting and ground options that you get. Now I have two different files here, which means that any light that I apply, or two different layers, any light that I apply will only apply to the one individual layer. So that's one of the problems with individual three-dimensional layers in Photoshop. It's just not the best option. But anyway, I'm going to go to my lighting menu, and you'll see right now I have one infinite light. If I turn that light off, you'll see that I don't get any light. So that makes sense. But I'm also going to add one more light to it, and that's going to be a new point light. Now at first you might say, well, I don't see where that light is actually being applied. So it's going to be hard for us to see where that light is until we move around. And sometimes it's really hard to find the light, and I found out why. We need to go down to the View menu and make sure that we can see maybe the 3D axis, the ground plane, as well as the 3D light and 3D selection. Now what you'll notice is that I'm actually moved around this plane in a kind of a strange way. So let me go to the 3D rotate. Let me get that ground plane so it's more of a normal ground plane. There we go. That looks a little bit more normal. Now if I can find the light, I'm going to go to the light tool, click on that point light, and see if I can find this light anywhere. I'm not sure I can find it. Ah, there it is. It's actually behind the object. So I'm going to move it forward, hopefully, with this. Might try a couple different tools there. There we go. Now it's in front of the object, and now I can move it a little bit more successfully. So it does take a little bit of getting used to, but you can see that we have some pretty neat things that we can do with this light. Move it out a little bit more. So now it's a little bit further away. Now we can change some other things about the light. We can change the intensity of it, making it brighter or darker. We can change the type of light that it is. We can even change its color. So maybe it has like a reddish tint or maybe a bluish tint, so that we can give certain colors to our scene that add ambience. We can add shadows, whether or not they have soft shadows or not, and we'll have to deal with that later. And we could even change the type of light. Now, spotlights are a little bit harder because you have to focus the lights at the object, but they do allow you to control the shadows a little bit more, because you can also do things like the hotspot and fall off. I'd say right now it's easiest to use the point light. It's just hard to find with any of them. It's hard to find the light at all. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the 3D light and the ground plane, and you'll see the results. And of course, you can notice that that light has not changed the original box over here. So you'd have to add more lights to that object. Go around and play with lights, and then save your work when you're done, and we'll go on to the next thing.